Hi everyone, I'm Amy Rose White. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about COVID parenting survival strategies today. I was asked recently about what moms and dads and parents can do to prepare for these winter months as we go into even more perhaps quarantine conditions. And as this, what was initially thought to be perhaps a short-term crisis is turning into a long-term crisis, it's really essential that we make a plan. One of the things the human brain hates is ambiguity and uncertainty. We crave order, routine, predictability, certainty, all things otherwise known as control, which it turns out we have very little of in life. However, we can make a response plan. We cannot control the outside conditions or environment or what's happening out in this world. And there's a lot. No one will argue that, but we can try our best to control our responses to everything that's going on right now. And those of us that have the demands of daily life coinciding with the demands of taking care of children, particularly if they are home doing online school, as mine happened to be for the indefinite future, having a plan or an approach or a rhythm or routine can really reduce distress and increase a sense of competency and in mental health what we call agency, which really just means like, do I have an effect on my life and the world? Can I change my circumstance? So let's talk about some mental ways and emotional approaches to taking control of what we can. So the first thing I suggest to parents right now, number one, is to reprioritize everything. Did you used to need to have all the laundry done before you went to bed or the sink cleaned out? Did you want to make sure X, Y, and Z was done on your winterizing outside list for your house? Whatever used to be major items that you had to get done, it's really important to determine what actually must get done and deprioritize the rest of the list simply to make the daily to-do list as short as possible. The shorter that list, the less overwhelmed and less chaotic each day will feel. And the problem is most of us have a running to-do list of 1,000 billion things and then maybe a written to-do list of 20. And you're never going to get that all done in a day. So reprioritizing what really must get done is important. If you have a partner, sit down and meet with them and talk about this list. If you have kids that can talk and walk, invite them to a family meeting on a weekend day and say, okay, we're going to talk about things that absolutely have to get done and how we can all work together as a community in our family to get those tasks accomplished. Number two, reframe expectations. So that really goes in keeping with number one, which means if you thought that you were going to be whoever parent of the year is in your mind in terms of making sure the kids have every assignment turned in, that's what I'm struggling with right now. Or in my head, that was my expectation. Or I'm going to have home cooked meals and we're going to eat healthier than ever during quarantine. Or you had this expectation that you and your partner were going to become closer because you have all this time together. It's really important to reevaluate and reframe those expectations in as much a realistic way as you can. And the truth is, this is a really rough time in our history and everyone is feeling stressed and feeling the effects of that stress. So what matters is looking at those expectations and then seeing what is possible in terms of accepting what is and allowing for that to be enough, or allowing for it to be okay with you. And that requires telling yourself a different mental story. In my case, I'll give you an example. I thought I would be checking Power Schools, that's what we use in my neck of the woods, to make sure that my kids had done all their assignments at the end of the school day, while I'm doing this on the computer for 8 or 9 hours a day back to back with clients, and they're in their rooms doing school. Then I had this magical vision that when they got done, we'd all convene in a group hug and eat a home-cooked meal and then look at Power Schools together and see how wonderfully they were doing. And then they'd finish their work and I would understand exactly how to do it. none of this has transpired. I'm exhausted after 8 or 9 clients. Most of the time they've left the house while I'm still working because I have teenagers. Now that might not be true for those of you with little kids or babies, and I can barely bring myself to look at Power Schools once or twice a week because I'm so busy cleaning the house and doing laundry and attending to my own issues in the world. So I have had to reframe that expectation and say, okay, I am going to ask their dad for support. I'm going to ask so-and-so to help me with this. I'm going to ask someone else to check Power Schools once a week. I'm going to ask their teachers for help. I'm going to increase communication there. If I can't do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to shoot someone an email. And I'm also going to give myself a huge, huge break because the reality is I have a relationship with my children and that's what matters the most. So no matter how old they are, I want you to know that how they do in school this year, or whether they're learning to read at 3 years old, or if they're getting enough socialization with other children, honestly, it doesn't matter if the relationship you have with them is strong, meaning that around 80% of the time you accurately reflect back to them how they're feeling and you meet their emotional needs fairly on point, that they're fed regularly, that they're loved with as much unconditional love as possible, that you make time for fun and play. It doesn't mean playing with them for hours and hours every day, but that there's a sense that your home is a safe place. From a developmental standpoint, that is all that matters at the end of the day. So that's an example of reframing expectations. Number 3, find one thing that you can control. I often tell clients this story that I was never a bed maker. I've always been sort of a sloppy, messy, kind of lazy person earlier in my life before having kids. And after I had children, I started making my bed every day without exception before I left the room and in the morning. And this was weird for me. And what I realized it is my attempt to have one place in the house that wasn't a complete disaster all day, every day. And it gave me a sense of control. It was one thing that I could do that took 2 minutes, that gave my brain a sense of order and predictability. And also, like, I did it. I accomplished something. Versus the laundry is never done. The dishes are never done. There's always another meal to be made. The litany of those to-do things can really get you down. But the bed for at least, 12 hours or so would remain done. So if for you it is getting those dishes out of the sink before you go to bed, or once a week mowing the lawn, or doing your nails, your toenails, I want you to just find one thing that is in your control, that isn't terribly time consuming, that you are able to accomplish each day and say, I did that. And you might even check it off. And it needs to be enough in that reframing expectations piece. It kind of goes hand in hand with that. But over time, it will help soothe your nervous system to feel like, okay, in this one area, I did the thing. Number 4 is to use breath work. As often as you can notice that you're holding your breath, I want you to take a deep in-breath in and do that 3 to 5 more times. And for extra credit, for you overachievers out there, I'd like you to do something called vagus nerve breathing, which is to inhale deeply. And that means you stick your belly out. I'm not trying to be skinny in this moment, okay? Let's drop all that, not helpful. So you take a deep belly breath in, and then you take a long exhale out, as long as you can. Make that exhalation long, 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 long. And you can do that while you're doing dishes, while you are feeding a person, while you're making a bed. You can slow everybody else down and say, stop, it's breath time. And you all take 5 long, deep vagus nerve breaths. And you can tell your little kids to think about breathing like you're going down a steep slide that never ends, that goes long, 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 till you need to take another inhalation. So that's another really important COVID parenting support strategy, survival strategy, because during times of acute and now chronic stress, our lizard brain is in that fight, flight, or freeze mode kind of all of the time. And what the lizard brain is trying to do is just keep us alive by looking for signs of danger all the time. And when we are in hyper alert like that, because we're just not sure what's going on in the world. Is my partner going to have a job? Am I going to have a job? What's the economy doing? What's our house worth? What's happening? Is my friend's baby going to get sick? How are my parents doing? What's happening to the state of the world? What's going to happen with the election? All of the things that people are worried about create this hyper-aroused, that's another mental healthy term, lizard brain that's looking for signs of danger. And when that happens, we don't breathe deeply and we deprive the wizard brain of the oxygen that it needs to feel safe. So that deep breath work brings a sense of safety back home to the body. So that's why it's so important. Deep breath in, long breath out. A few times a day, it will make a difference. And then my last and final suggestion of the day is to be ridiculous at least one time a day. What do I mean by that? Well, for me, if you've watched a few of my videos, you might notice that I have a certain proclivity for vintage sequins. Some people would say that's not that ridiculous. I would agree with that. However, it just makes things fun for me. It makes doing the dishes a little more entertaining. It brings a little glamour to the everyday routine. So that might be your ridiculous for the day. You might go ice blocking with your kids. You might run outside, in a tank top and shorts in the middle of the winter. I'm serious. I want you to think outside the box, get creative, and one time a day, do something totally ridiculous. If you have twin 3-month-olds, I want you to still take this seriously. I want you to paint their faces with lipstick and take a picture. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you exercise creativity in some way and make room for silliness and play. Because goodness knows, this is a serious time in our history right now. And play nourishes our inner child, which is a topic for another day. And it connects us to joy. So if you're having a hard time connecting to joy in a general way, I encourage you to seek out extra support from a therapist or physician. But in the meantime, take these 5 steps, find the ridiculousness in life, and expand on it to the best of your ability every single day. I hope you find this helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe if that's the case, and I will see you next time. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at peace. See you soon.